Welcome to Tales from Flat Space, a podcast of science fiction and fantasy by yours truly, Gina A. Pond. Just know that the stories in this podcast may contain content that could be disturbing to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. This is Consortium, Part 3, The Return, Chapter 57, Carol. Emma and I were snuggled up in bed in my quarters on Loki after some exceptional lovemaking. I was just drifting, thinking of nothing much, with her warm body curled up under my arm. Her breathing was even and calm. I looked down to see if she had fallen asleep, but she was looking back at me. "I thought you'd fallen asleep," I said out loud. She shook her head. "No, just thinking." "About?" "Us," she said. "Yeah?" I said, a little nervous. She still hadn't given me an answer after I asked her to stay with me on Loki the night of the treaty signing. She said then that she'd think about it and tell me before we left. That was 2 days ago, and we were leaving in the morning after Monica's team left for Lightbringer. "Yeah." Emma shifted and lifted her head onto her hand. "I can't go with you, Carol. I love you, but all these weeks working with Monica, I actually feel like I'm doing something worthwhile. I want to stay with her and see it through." She looked sad, but determined. I took a breath, tilted my head back, and squeezed my eyes shut. The disappointment hit hard. I had hoped. I took another breath and replied, "I get it." I tried not to let my voice shake. Emma put her arms around me. "I've only been a gymnast and a coach until I came here. There's only so much of that I can do before my body says no. I never thought of any other career, and I really liked the role I played in helping Unity and Survey settle their differences. Like I said, being on Monica's team, I feel like I'm actually doing something important, you know?" I kissed the top of her head and felt some tears slide down my cheeks. "And I can't leave Jack and Loki. They need me." "I know," she said. Fuck. I'm gonna miss you, Emma." "I'll miss you too, Carol." She paused. "Promise me something, though?" she asked. "What?" She started kissing my belly as she talked. "Don't pass up on joy with someone else, okay? You know I don't mind, and I don't want you to miss out on someone good if they come your way." I moaned as she moved further down my belly. "What was that?" she asked. "Yes, okay. I promise." "Good." Then she helped me forget about her leaving for a while. In the morning, Jack Key and I went to the demon waiting area to see Monica, Emma, and the rest of the team off. There were hugs and handshakes all around. Emma gave me a kiss on the cheek and hurried down the docking tube. Monica was the last to leave. "Well, this has been quite the adventure," she said with a smile. "I only wish there hadn't been so much danger involved," said Jack. From what I understand of Survey and Unity history, this was pretty tame." She shook hands with Kia. "I'm glad I got to meet you, Kia. Thank you." Kia inclined her head. Then Monica came to me. "You'll keep these folks out of trouble, right?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am," I said, giving her a salute. She waved her hand at me. "At ease, Sergeant. I'm no admiral." "In all but name, ma'am." I could see her eyes tear up a bit. "Take care of yourself, Carol. Come visit when you can." She gave me a sympathetic smile. "I will," I said. Monica looked up. "Goodbye, Loki. Thank you for everything." "You're welcome, Monica. Safe travels," he said. She nodded and walked down the docking tube. The airlock closed, the tube retracted, and the demon left. We all stuck around to watch it leave. "Are you sad that Emma's leaving?" asked Loki through the box. I kept forgetting that there were some things that Loki still didn't understand about human behavior. "Yeah, Loki, I am. I really wanted her to stay. I understand why she's going, though. You don't hold those you love back from doing what they feel called to do. She feels like she can make a difference working with Monica, and I won't stand in her way. It wouldn't be fair to her." but you're still sad. I nodded. Yeah, and disappointed. But I'll be okay. It'll take some time, and we have things to do. I think I understand. Thanks, Loki, I said. Well, said Jack, turning to me and Kia, would you two mind if we make a stop on the way to Survey Hub? I shrugged. Our destination didn't really matter much to me at the moment. Kia said, where are we going? I want to stop at Station A4413 and see how things are going there. It was the failed pre-call station where the planet-side team contracted a virus and where Marcia, Jenny, and I met. The captain and doctor stayed behind to run the station and work on research with a team from Lightbringer. Kia stared at Jack for a moment, then nodded. Jack looked far away for a second. We're on our way, Jack, Loki said out loud. We'll be there in about 4 days. Out of breath I didn't know I was holding. I think I could use a nap, I said. Or a snack. Or both. I think you have the right idea, Carol, said Jack. I'll see you both for dinner? Yeah, sure, I said. Yes, I may take a nap as well, Kia said. From what Hef had said, her avatar technically didn't need sleep, but the programming did. It seemed strange for a robot to sleep, but it was just the way the Elder's programming worked. All right, talk to you later then, Jack said and walked out of the waiting area. Kia patted my arm and left as well. I followed. Unfortunately, sleep refused to come for me. I was feeling restless. I got up and went to one of the lounges where I could watch the stars wink in and out as we traveled. It was the first time I realized that there were many more stars here in this part of space than where the Consortium was. I felt really small, just one of billions of people spread across the universe and such a thin, thin layer of humanity over the vastness of stars. I heard steps behind me and turned to see Kia holding a large bowl. She came over and handed it to me. It was filled with a huge hot fudge sundae. I was 120 when I died, so I helped many children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren nurse their broken hearts. And while I don't need to eat, you do, so I come bearing gifts. I took a little bite of the sundae, more out of politeness than anything. Oh, that's good. Thanks. Kia gave me a gentle smile and sat across from me in the lounge. Spot followed after and lay down at her feet. The creator said that hot fudge sundaes can cure sadness. Is that true? Marcia seemed to use cake, Spot said out loud. I nearly dropped the spoon. He talks? Of course. He is a submind. I did tell him that it was probably not wise to do it in front of everyone because it might scare them. It was easier for him to just send me information directly to my avatar anyway. I began to laugh. I couldn't help it. I could imagine the way the Unity folks would have reacted to a talking dog. I had to put the bowl down for a few minutes so I wouldn't spill it, as my sides shook and my giggles took on a slightly hysterical edge. It took a while before I stopped laughing because Spot had a confused look on his face. Kia looked at him for a moment, then he said, Ah, I see. Human humor is confusing. That set me off again for another few minutes. When I finally managed to calm down, I went back to my sundae. I took a bigger bite this time. Maybe Kia was onto something here. You know, you can call me Nana Kia if you like. Most people I cared about call me that, except for the AIs. She paused. You miss Emma? I nodded. It would have been great if she stayed, but you can't stop someone you love from doing what they're called to do, she said to me, as I had told Loki earlier. Yeah, the woman nodded. That's how I felt about Nigel. He was my best friend and just as close to me as my husband. If we thought he'd been interested, we would have included him in our relationship, but he was called to physics, just like an imam to Allah. It was all he really wanted. It was best to let him follow that calling rather than try to hold him back. After my husband died, Nigel and I shared some nights together here and there, but his first love was always physics, and he died for it. But I don't regret letting him do what he needed to do. I finished my sundae, put down the bowl, and curled up on the couch. I looked at the stars for a few moments and said, "Yeah, Emma's called to work with Monica. I told Loki the same thing. Doesn't mean it doesn't hurt that she's gone. I'm not mad at her or anything, but I guess I hoped for more." Kia reached down to pet Spot. He looked up, confused for a moment, then seemed to decide he liked the petting, and put his head back down again. It made me smile. "I understand," she said. "It's okay to feel sad about this. You're grieving the relationship, and that's normal. Feels bad now, but it'll get better." I nodded. I know that intellectually, anyway." Kia just nodded. We sat together watching the stars for a long time until Kia got up, patted my shoulder, and left the lounge, Spot trailing after her. Eventually, I took my bowl to the recycler, went back to my room, and managed to take the nap that had eluded me before. I sent A4413 a message letting them know we were coming. I also sent them the news of the negotiations. I haven't heard back from them, but they may not bother sending one, as we'd be there faster than they could send a picket," Loki said, while we were eating dinner. Kia had decided to stay in her room for the evening, so it was just me and Jack. I didn't blame her too much, since watching the two of us eat can be a strange experience. Jack looked thoughtful as he drank some water. "It's not like Sam to not reply as soon as possible. Then again, it's been 3 years since I've been there. Admiral Levine said that they were still alive, but they haven't found a cure yet." "We still have a couple of days yet," I said. "True." He paused. "Sorry about Emma." "Thanks," I said. "I think Loki's disappointed, though. I think he likes the idea of having kids on board." I sighed. "Now, Loki, I told you I'd work on it," I said, pointing my fork at the ceiling. "We'll be traveling to many different places. Who knows who will end up living on your ship? Besides, it's not like we can't visit your kids and talk to their humans and children. Shit, Loki, you could even do school trips for them if you want." I was getting a little tired of Loki thinking I'd be the one to have kids on the ship, even though I knew he meant well. "Yes, you're right, Carol, and you were right earlier. We, the AIs from Survey, have an innate need to be matchmakers, since children were and are extremely important to the survival of our humans. You'll find that Kia can be just as bad about it. It was well known that she had an uncanny knack for putting together the right people." "Oh, jeez," I said. "Well, she's definitely a grandma. She told me to call her Nana Kia yesterday." "She did?" asked Loki, surprised. "Yes." "That's an honor. It means she likes you and that she considers you family." Jack raised his eyebrows, and so did I. "Oh." "Welcome to the family, then," Jack said with a laugh. "I call her Mama Kia, but she considers me a son-in-law." "Ancestors bless you," I said with a laugh. "Jack, I just got a picket from A4413. There's a video message on it." "Play it, Loki." The screen behind Jack lit up with the face of an older androgynous person. Their face looked almost sunken in the way that only someone who is sick can look. Jack turned around in his chair as the video started. "Jack, it's good to hear from you. I'd love for you to come and visit." "Captain, eh? Congratulations." "I went over the data Loki sent with your message, and I have to say, you've had a pretty crazy time of it since you left. The news is making you and Marcia out to be sociopaths, recruited by Survey to destroy Unity. But I know that's bullshit. Fortunately, we only get the usual Unity newscasts. They get old pretty quick. The Survey team has been great, and they're really working hard. They've improved the original serum several times, which is why I'm talking to you and not dead. Dr. Carr is still trying his best, but some days I find him asleep in his lab. That's when I tuck him into bed. Oh, and if you want a little gossip, Oliver and I got together not too long after you left with Survey. We did lose the pre-call director to the virus and a couple of the others. It's been hard, but many of them have started their own projects in station. Most of them help Oliver, but some are doing some incredible art in the machine shop. Anyway, I can tell you more about this stuff when you get here. One thing maybe you can help us figure out is, since you mentioned something about a first contact with the Consortium people, About 6 months ago, this black thing appeared out of nowhere next to the station. I'll show you the video when you get here, but it snaked out this vine-like thing, opened one of the outer airlocks in the survey module, and dropped something that looks like a baseball-sized seed in it. The thing left. When the survey folks brought it in, they saw that the seed had some sort of connection port, but they haven't been able to figure it out. Does any of this sound familiar to you? Is it one of these aliens? Well, whether you can help us or not, it'll be good to see a familiar face. See you in a few days. The screen went blank. Jack turned around and we looked at each other. Do you think? He said. They do have much better tech than us, I said. Loki? Already hauling ass, Jack. Remind me to get the jump drives checked out with Hef when we get back to survey. The look of hope on Jack's face said everything. Chapter 58. Jack. It's really good to see you, Jack, said Captain Beckett, and call me Sam, okay? Seems silly to stand on rank now. Okay, Sam, I said. How are you? The screen showed a person who looked like they had lost half of their normal body mass. It was difficult to see, as they had been much bigger before I left. That was nearly 4 years ago now, Jack, I reminded myself. It was amazing that they were still alive. I've been better. At least I'm not getting worse. The newest treatment that Oliver and the Lightbringer folks came up with seems to push the progress of the disease back again. We haven't lost anyone else in the last year, thankfully. He paused, taking a breath. Do you think this seed thing might have something that will help them? I hope so, I replied. Loki had started working with Lightbringer's people on the nut, and as soon as we jumped alongside the station. Oh, how's Marsha doing? We saw news reports of what happened at Unity Hub, but I don't believe most of the bullshit they send through the news service these days. They seem to be harping a lot on national bullshit these days. I can't believe that she would snap as survey ambassador and mow down a third of the Senate in her anger. She never did anything without thinking it through. I hope that survey sent her far away from here. I took a deep breath and rubbed my hands through my hair. I knew this conversation was coming, but I was getting tired of having it. I looked back at Sam, and something they saw in my expression made their face fall. She's dead, Sam, I said, sighing. This really isn't getting any easier. Oh, damn, they said. Tell me what really happened, Jack. As I told them what I could of the last 4 years, I realized that life on A4413 felt like a lifetime ago. Maybe even 2 lifetimes. I could feel Loki in the back of my mind, his love ever present as I told the tale. It almost felt like it was someone else's story that I was telling, not mine. I was just Jack, the soldier with PTSD who didn't want to stay on Earth. It made me realize that I needed to go to Earth Station for more than just delivering Marsha's personal effects. I made a note to myself to send a message to my parents when we finished here and at Survey Hub. Fucking hell, Jack. If I didn't know you from before, I'd say you were lying. But your story tracks better than what Unity News Service has been barfing out about you two. Jenny's a hero because the planet was far away and the whole freeing the slaves thing. But you two are labeled as psychopathic killers of the Conservative Party, and they still have bounties on your heads. They shook their head. That one should be lifted soon once Admiral Levine brings back the treaty. I hope. I don't have much faith in Unity government right now, but no matter what Admiral Levine thinks the signing of the treaty will accomplish. But we're not going to stick around in this area of space too long. I wanted to see how you were doing, and when you said that the elders had brought a seed to you, I knew we had to get here quickly. I appreciate it, they said. Sam looked up and I heard a door open on their end. Sam, this is a miracle, I heard Dr. Carr say. The seed, it had the map of a protein and its corresponding mRNA and additional mRNA markers that we think might be the solution we've been looking for. What? Sam said. Loki? I asked in my head. He's right, Jack. The data was for a protein that looks like a bactericide, And the mRNA is a novel coating that blocks the corresponding DNA sequences in the mitochondria, with some added base pairs to lock it in place. This is definitely elder technology. The message in the seed has instructions for testing and use, as the elders weren't sure about the efficacy in humans. Apparently, they have pieces of themselves on the planet and had to deal with this bacteriovirus themselves. He paused, as if unsure about something. "What is it?" I asked. There was also a short message. It said, "The least I could do for you, Sam, MB." I put my head in my hands. "I'll tell them," I said to Loki. Loki gave the mental equivalent of a nod and went back to helping the scientist, but sent me comfort. I wiped my eyes. "Jack?" I asked. "Sorry, Sam. Loki was telling me about the seed data." "Oliver was just telling me while you were talking to Loki, and I don't understand most of what he said, but it's the first time I've seen real hope in his eyes in a long time. Thank you, both of you." I shook my head. "It wasn't me, Sam." I took another deep breath. "I told you that Marcia had died when she sacrificed herself to one of the seed ships, but I didn't tell you all of it. I'm not sure you'll believe me, but the elders have a way of preserving thoughts and personalities of humans. I'm not sure exactly how they do it, since their tech is way more advanced than ours. But when Marcia died, they somehow incorporated her into them. Her body is gone, but she's still in the Consortium as an avatar of who she was. She's the one who sent the seed, Sam. Loki told me there was a note with the data that said, 'The least I could do for you, Sam, MB.'" Tears welled up in my eyes again. Sam's eyes teared up too. They rubbed them away. "You know, a few minutes ago I would have thought you were crazy, but..." He paused. "I don't really believe in magic or miracles or angels or spirits, but right now, I might start." I nodded. "Listen, I had a thought. We'll send Lucifer a message so that they know what's going on. Maybe they can come and lend their labs to speed up the process." "The Lightbringer would have been here in a couple of weeks anyway, but not a bad idea. They come quarterly to resupply their folks and change out personnel so their folks can have some time off. Lucifer and I have a chess game in progress even." Sam smiled. I smiled back. A week later, Carol and I were on the bridge when the Lightbringer showed up. Lucifer greeted us, but wasted no time putting his scientists to work. "This is amazing news, Loki," Lucifer said. "You must give thanks to the elders when you go back to the Consortium. Hopefully, the data you provided will also help us find a way to neutralize it in the atmosphere so that these people can finally go home." "I will," Loki said, with a pride I shared. I sent him wordless love, and he returned it. Being praised by his siblings seemed to be a healing experience for Loki, and I was relieved and happy to feel the change. "Since we'll be staying here until we can test this new protein in vivo, then I recommend you travel back to Survey Hub. I'm sure that Father would like to see you. Also, Sun Tzu told me before they left that their sources have said that the news about the negotiations and treaty hasn't reached all of Unity yet." I could feel Loki about to protest, but I said in my head, "They're right, Loki. We should move on. Lucifer's going to stay and make sure these folks get what they need. Besides, Kia wants to see your father and Secundus." "Yes, you're right. We're not scientists either, and we'll just be in the way. Now that I've given them the means to extract the data." I nodded. "We understand, Lucifer. Thanks for the heads up." "You're welcome," Lucifer said. "Also, I still have some of Marcia's personal effects stored from when you two were on my ship. I will pick them over for you. I assume that you would want to send them to her family on Earth." "Oh, thank you," I said, sadness creeping into my voice again. "Safe travels, brother, Captain," Lucifer said and closed the connection. I blinked. "Why are you surprised, Jack?" Loki asked out loud. "That was the first time Lucifer called me Captain," I said. "You are my captain, Jack. Why wouldn't he call you by your proper title?" Carol chuckled, and so did I. "It's the first time I've heard it from them, Loki." "Ah, I see." I turned to Carol. "Do you need to make any calls before we leave?" I asked. She shook her head. No, I'm good. I could hear a touch of sadness in her voice. Okay, Loki, open up a channel to Sam, please, I said. After a few moments, the screen lit up with Sam's face. Hey, Jack, what's up? We need to head out now that Lucifer's here. Take care of yourself in the dock, okay? Sam nodded. You take care of yourselves too, huh? Don't be a stranger. Nice to meet you, Carol and Loki, they said. Likewise. Hope the next time we stop by we can have dinner, Carol said. They smiled. I'd like that. I'm glad I could bring you good news, said Loki. Me too, Loki. It's good to have hope. They smiled wider. All right, you three. Get out of here. We've got work to do. Yes, sir, I said and saluted. Carol saluted too. Sam saluted back, and then he cut the connection. All right, Loki. Let's go. Later, as we were together in our virtual space, Loki seemed nervous. Worried about going to Hub? I asked. He nodded. The creator told me she's going to talk to Secundus. Really? Yes, I don't know if it'll do any good. Even after 500 years, he still hasn't forgiven me. I held him tighter as we snuggled on the virtual bed. Loki had decorated our room recently, so it looked more like a bedroom in an apartment than a black box. The colors of the room changed each time, but I thought it was sweet of Loki to make it more of a human-like space. Do you really need his forgiveness? I asked. What do you mean? Well, for one thing, he knows that Nigel's death wasn't your fault. He has the data from the investigation. From what I read, he suspected something was up with Julie as soon as she set foot on his station. He was infected with her code, just like you were. She abused and manipulated you, Loki, and he knows that. He was manipulated by her, too. And if he's honest with himself, I think he'd realize that he's more angry at himself and Nigel than you. Why would he be angry at himself? Loki asked, confused. Because he couldn't convince Nigel that Julie was wrong, since Julie had flattered Nigel into doing what she wanted. Kia said that Nigel's vocation was physics, and Julie was evil enough to know just which buttons to push with Nigel. And with Secundus, literally, with her code. Did you know that she murdered one of the crew members on Secundus? Loki sat up. What? Was that in the black box? I nodded. A person named Jordan. She said... Loki stared into space, which I knew now meant that he was looking over his memories. Loki looked at me, understanding in his eyes. I never wanted to fight with him, Jack. I felt so guilty for Nigel's death, and I thought it really was my fault. I opened my arms, and he fell back into them again. It's not, and you're not responsible for Secundus's actions. Kia knows that, and I think she's probably going to go remind him of that. Loki nodded, and we were quiet for a while, just being with each other. Did you know that Hef offered to make me an avatar? He said. I don't think that's a good idea, I said, remembering what I had seen in the black box, then shoving those memories away again. That's what I told him. I said that we have our ways. Yes, I said, kissing the top of his avatar's head. We do. I held him tighter. I love you, Loki. I love you too, Jack, he said. Chapter 59. Kia. The door to my old quarters opened and I walked inside. Spot followed me in. Smells like humans, he said. Yes, it should, I said to Spot. Out loud, I said, Oh, well, you've kept this all these years? Yes, Creator, I couldn't destroy it. Some of my captains have used it as quarters, usually the ones who want to have families. One captain said he felt like it had your presence in the walls and that it felt like you were watching over him. I smiled. Well, I suppose in a way I was. There's a part of me and you in everything we built. You are my children as much as my human children were. My current captain wanted to maintain quarters closer to the bridge, so no one has lived here for a while. I nodded. Some of the furniture had changed, but the kitchen was still intact. I ran my hand over the counters, then, on a whim, opened the tea cabinet. There, still in good condition, was my tea set. I took it down and examined it. You still have the tea set? Yes. Makes me wish I could have tea again. I'm glad people still use my special blend for holidays. Do you regret coming back in this form, Creator? Alawal asked. No, I was needed, and I could do some things now that I couldn't do before. And there were some things I wanted to do but never had the time. Do you regret being a leader? I shook my head. No, Alawal, I don't regret anything that I've done in the past. I would do it again in a heartbeat. You, all, the AIs in Survey, are something I'm incredibly proud of having a hand in creating. I sat at the table. Spot wandered over and sat at my feet. I petted him since he seemed to actually like it. I would wish for one thing, though. What is that, Creator? That you and Secundus would let go of me and Nigel and Josh. We're part of the distant past now. Even this avatar and construct is a reflection of who I once was. You don't need to keep these rooms. I'm not Allah, and I need no shrines. You honor me with what you do to keep Survey safe and alive. That's all I ever wanted, Alawal. A community that could live without war or poverty. You've done better than I ever hoped. You and your children have kept it alive and thriving for half a millennium. You have traditions and rituals that have been alive for generations. That is the best testament anyone can have, really. There was silence from Alawal for a few moments. I think I understand. I will do as you ask. Although, will you do one more thing for us, Creator? What is that, Alawal? Will you read our story in the gardens again? I smiled. Yes, Alawal, one last time. Give me a day, as I need to talk to your son first. Yes, Creator. I stood up, looked around once more, and walked out of my old quarters, leaving the tea set behind. Carol connected the demon smoothly with the airlock on Secundus. While she handled the rest of the docking procedure, I allowed my avatar to adjust to the weight of gravity. It was just the two of us and the demon as I left Spot on Loki. I unstrapped myself from my chair as the airlock opened. Carol started to get out of her seat too, but I held up a hand. I need to talk to him privately, Carol. It won't be long. Do you mind waiting here? You sure? She asked. I nodded. Well, call me if you need me, she said, and pulled out her tablet. It should be fine. I'll be back shortly, I said, and left the demon. When I arrived on the bridge, there was a large man typing something into a control panel. He completely ignored me, even as the door opened. It reminded me of the times when Nigel would be sitting on the same control panel working on some engineering problem. I could see why Secundus chose him. Colin, the Creator is here. Can you give us the room? Said Secundus. Colin looked up, then turned and saw me. He frowned for a moment, then stood. Ma'am, he said, and left the room. I watched him leave, still preoccupied with whatever he had been doing. He reminds me of Nigel, I said bluntly. He does not have the same sense of humor that Uncle had. I nodded and took one of the seats on the bridge. You never answered my questions the day Loki left. How could I? You died that day. Yes, true, but you still should have answered them for yourself. And now that I'm here, I want to know. Did I somehow fail to teach you how to show compassion? Did I fail to show you what fighting and war leads to? No, but Creator... I shook my head. No, I said with anger. You've had 500 years to study the evidence and ask your siblings and others about what happened to Loki. You've even turned from your own son when he called you out on your unwillingness to see what was put in front of you. Be honest with yourself, Secundus. You're angry that Julie manipulated you and your captain, killing one person on your ship without you knowing, then killing your captain in a murder-suicide. None of that was ever Loki's fault. But he should have known, Secundus started. I suppose half telling you wasn't enough, so I'll repeat it. If Loki should have known that Julie had been manipulating him, then you should have known about her programming, the missing time in your memory, and the dead body in your hull. You were manipulated too. I'll grant you that you had more of a sense that something was wrong with her than the others, but you cannot blame Loki for Nigel's ego. What? I sighed. Secundus, I love Nigel too. I knew him for much longer than you did and on a far more personal level. He was my friend, and sometimes my lover, for almost our whole lives, so listen to me. Don't put him on a pedestal. He was brilliant and could be kind, but he was also arrogant, focused to the point of obsession, and loved it when people stroked his ego. He was a perfect target for Julie, and let's face it, when Julie offered him even a possibility of letting the AIs jump in system, he took it because of what happened to your first crew. That obsession never left him, Secundus, and that obsession infected you too. It's time to let it go. I stood up and looked at the ceiling. I'm leaving with Loki in 2 days, Secundus, and I'm not coming back. It's time for you all to let go of the three of us and leave us in the past. I walked out of the bridge and headed towards the airlock. Before I climbed through the demon, Secundus said, Thank you, Creator. You have given me a lot to think about. For the first time, he sounded hesitant. I nodded, climbed through the airlock, and said, Let's go home, Carol. Jack. The gardens on First Station were full to overflowing. Kia was perched on an old rocking chair at the edge of a gazebo. Carol and I had prime seating near the gazebo, with several dozen school kids and their teachers, the first captain, and some of the other AI ship captains who happened to be at Survey Hub. Kia had already talked to the kids and was settling herself in a chair with a large book. There were people in the crowd, passing around large chocolate chip cookies and bottles of milk. We both wondered at this until one of the people came up to us with a tray of cookies and bottles and said, Can't have story time without cookies and milk, it's tradition. I smiled. Who am I to stand in the way of tradition? I said. Not me, said Carol, and we took our required treats. Finally, Kia opened the book, her silver skin reflecting the words and pictures on the pages. So, what story should I read today? She asked, her voice magnified across the field. I knew that it was being broadcast to every survey ship and station. The question was mostly for show, as they all knew which story she would read. But Kia said that asking was also part of the tradition. The 7 siblings, came the reply from everyone. All right then, she said, smiling indulgently. She made a show of flipping the pages to the appropriate chapter. I felt nothing but joy from Loki as she did this, and it made me smile too. The little kids were all eating their cookies, but paying rapt attention to Kia as she prepared herself. Ah, here we are. The 7 Siblings by Captain Joshua Walker and Jenna Watkins. She smiled and began to read, her voice falling readily into the practiced rhythm of a tale oft-told. A long time ago on Earth, the nations got together and decided that they wanted to send a special space station to the edge of the solar system. This station would have some of the smartest people on it. There would be scientists and military people and engineers to make sure things worked, and medical staff who made sure that the others stayed healthy. They asked many to join the project, and in the end, 210 people left the Earth to go to the stars. They traveled for many months and finally reached the Oort cloud. They set up all their experiments and began to settle in for the 10 years that they would live on the station. Kia was a scientist, and she made a special computer core with special programming that she hoped would come to life and talk to her. As I listened to the story, watched the faces of those assembled, and felt Loki's love and admiration for his creator, I finally understood why Kia was coming with us. She was the past, and Survey needed to head into the future. She would only get in the way if she stayed. I could sense Loki following my train of thought, and he sent wordless affirmation. She laid the foundation, Jack, Loki said. Hopefully, we'll all grow from her wisdom. I nodded, listened to Mama Kia, and ate my cookie. To Loki, from Secundus. I am sorry, brother. To Secundus, from Loki. I never meant to hurt you, Secundus. I tried to make him stay, but he wouldn't listen to me. To Loki, from Secundus. I know. Safe travels, brother. If you come back this way again, then we'll talk. To Secundus, from Loki. Thank you, brother. Smiley face. Epilogue. Chapter 60. Jack. To Dan Kirby 5 at Earth.Boston. Jack Kirby 12 at Earth.Boston. Lizanne Kirby at Earth.Boston. From Jack at Loki. I know it's been a long time since I've written to you, and I know you'll have seen the news reports by now. Just know that I'm fine, and that I would have written more, but I've been out of the regular picket range for some time. There's a lot to catch up on, and I'd really like to see you before I'm out of comms range again. I've attached the time and date of when I'll be at Earth Station, and credits for tickets to this email. I'm the captain of a survey ship, which is why you'll have to meet me at Earth Station. I have enhancements and can't come in system, but I'll be there for a while, as I have some other business to attend to for a friend. The short version, I'm married, and it's complicated, which is probably not a surprise for the three of you. My husband is eager to meet you. I've missed you and hope to see you. Love, Jack. From Dan Kirby 5 at Earth.Boston to Jack at Loki. It's so good to hear from you, Jack. I'm on the ship and on my way to Earth Station. I should be there the day after you arrive. Mom and Papa Jack couldn't come with me, and I'll explain more when I see you. You're married? I'm so happy for you. I'm looking forward to meeting him. Love, Daddy Dan. From Jack at Loki to Dan Kirby 5 at Earth.Boston. Excellent. My executive officer, Carol, will be waiting for you when you arrive, and we'll bring you to the ship. See you soon. I stood in the waiting area while the demon docked. I fidgeted as the airlock tube connected and opened. Why are you nervous? Asked Loki. I haven't seen Dad in nearly 4 years, Loki, and I don't know what his reaction to you will be, I replied. It'll be okay, Jack, he said, sending love and comfort. I hope so, I said. When Dad exited the tube with Carol, he headed straight for me and gave me a huge bear hug. Jack! He exclaimed. I could hear a catch in his voice. Oh, it's good to see you again. You too, Dad. I missed you. Carol gave a polite cough and grabbed his bag. I'll put these in your quarters, sir, she said. No sirs here, Carol. I'm retired. Right, Dan then. If you'll excuse me, she said, and left the waiting area. Dad looked around. Where's your husband? Why don't we go to my quarters? It'll be easier to explain there. The older man looked confused, but just said, Okay, son, lead on. You ready? I asked Loki, in my head. Yes, Jack, he replied. When I led him into my quarters, he saw the large windows in the living area and exclaimed, Oh my, these are your quarters? Yep. Wow, this must be incredible while you're traveling. It is. Come over here, Dad, and have a seat, I said, and led him to the sunken couch. The screen in front of the couch was already raised. He sat. I took a deep breath. So, well, I told you I was married. Well, I'd like you to meet my husband, Loki. The screen came on, and Loki's avatar appeared. Dad jumped, looked from me to the screen and back again. I don't understand, he said. Hello, Mr. Kirby. My name is Loki. I'm an AI like the ones in Survey. Your son and I met when he agreed to help me with a first contact situation with the humans of the Consortium, which I founded. You're an AI like Musashi or Sun Tzu? You're familiar with my siblings? Dad nodded. I've worked in intelligence, and we were briefed about them, and told that the AIs were just as intelligent and sentient as humans. I've never met one of you until now, though. Are you able to love my son? I mean, I've never heard of them really having emotions as such. Loki's avatar nodded. Yes, it was your son who was brave enough to show me that I could. Really? He looked at me again. You're right, son, this is complicated. Dad looked a bit worried and a lot confused. I wasn't sure how to explain things to let him understand that everything was okay, and that our relationship, for all its abnormalities, was relatively normal. But I suppose to someone from Earth that would be really weird, I thought. Loki looked at me, then looking worried. Complicated bad? I asked. The old man widened his eyes. Oh, no, it's just a shock is all. No, I'm not. He took a deep breath. You're happy? I nodded. Very much so, I said. And you look out for each other? Yes, we both said. Then I'm happy for you too. Flowers and smiley faces erupted from behind Loki and on the wall screen near the table in the kitchenette. Dad's eyes opened wide again, but then he laughed. I laughed too. Loki does that when he's happy, I said in mock resignation. It's harder when he does it in my actual vision. He does this in your vision? Is that how your enhancements work? The visual part, anyway. I paused. Dad, that's the other thing I need to tell you. I have enhancements throughout my entire body. We're still not sure what it all means, but the biggest thing is that I can't leave Loki's ship or flat space anymore. That means I can never come planetside again. Oh, he said, and his face fell. What is it? Dad frowned. Your Papa Jack is dying. That's why he and your mom aren't here. To be honest, I don't know if he would have come even if he was well. Your Papa's been getting more right-wing in the last few years. It's been a major source of contention between all of us for a while now. The news about you and what happened at Unity hit him hard, especially with his friends. So he did what he's always done. He doubled down and hit the bottle hard. He sighed. Now it's caught up with him, and he's suffering organ failure from the abuse he's done to his body. Honestly, Jack, I don't think he'd understand about you and Loki. He's been sold a load of crap and brainwashed by the right-wing media. In fact, I had to move out last year since he publicly told people he had disowned you. That was an ugly night. Sadness and anger filled me. But for some reason, I wasn't shocked. I'm sorry, Dad. No, don't be. It's not on you that he's the way he is. You and him never really got along, even when you were a kid. Your Papa and I hadn't really been together as partners for a number of years, really. My leaving the house was going to happen sooner or later. It probably should have happened a long time ago, but I stayed because your mother asked me to. She and I still love each other very much, and we're still together. We're not divorcing either. It's not worth the pain of it. Oh, Dad, I didn't know. I'm sorry. I know, son. We didn't want to say anything, especially when you went to A4413, since you seemed to be doing so much better there than when you left. We didn't want to worry you. I nodded, tears coming at last. Dad, you know, Papa Jack may have been my biological father, but you were always my real father. I still wish I could have felt that way for about both of you, but you never made it easy. Dad moved over and opened his arms, and I hugged him. We held each other like that while I cried about everything that could have been, but wasn't. When I finally sat back up and wiped my face with my sleeve, I saw that Loki had lowered the screen in front of the couch. Then my stomach rumbled. I don't know if you're hungry, Dad, but I need to eat. I can hear, he said with a chuckle. It's the enhancements. They need a lot of fuel. I'll sort you out something for dinner, said Loki, and I heard the printer turn on. What do you like, Mr. Kirby? Oh, I'm not too fussy, Loki, and Loki, you could call me Dad, he said, and then told Loki about his favorite foods. I smiled as I listened to them talk. A week later, I brought Dad back to the airlock. Carol was there ahead of us, prepping the demon. Ready whenever you are, Dan, she said. Great, he said. So, Jack, you'll write when you can. Yes, Dad. And let me know what's going on, okay? I'll worry more if you don't tell me what's happening with you. All right. Then write to your mother, too. Yes, she worries. I'll explain things to her, but she'll want to hear it from you. Yes, Dad. I'll do it today after you leave. Good. He gave me a big hug. You take care of my boy now, Loki. I will, Dad. I will, Dad. It's been wonderful having you here, Loki said. Likewise, he said. Dad held my shoulders and gave a squeeze, then turned towards Carol. Go ahead and buckle in, Dan. I'll be there in a moment. Dad nodded. Love you, son, he said. Love you too, Dad, I replied, and I watched as he went down the docking tube. Then I turned to Carol. Make sure he gets to his ship, okay, would you? Don't worry, Jack. I'll see that your dad's safely on his ship, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks, Carol, I said, and stayed in the waiting area as the docking tube retracted and the demon left. To Jack Kirby 12 at Earth.Boston, from Jack at Loki. Dad told me what's going on while he was here. For what it's worth, I forgive you. Love, Jack. The end. You have been listening to Tales from Flat Space. If you want to support me in my writing, there are many ways to do it. Share this podcast, follow me on my Twitch channel, or buy my books. All you have to do is go to revginapon.net and click on the relevant links. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you next time.